Okay, ladies and gentlemen, aliens, whatever you identify in this wonderful, beautiful world, welcome into the Hunter Houston ESG podcast. Now, today, this particular is a more of a serious topic, and it's to address a lot of different things, I guess. Make sure everything is correct here. Going across, yes, it is perfect. Dealing with suicide, fighting personal demons, fighting amongst yourselves in this world um, you know, regardless of whatever you may identify as, if you are whatever you want to be in this world, if you're wanting to do harm to yourself or harm to others, whether they be whatever they may be, children, other adults, or stuff like that, just for no other reason than just to be, I guess, full of hate or whatever, maybe there's something driving you toward that. Maybe there are demons in your life, and you don't know how to call them demons or see things as if they are demons or demonic forces that are crawling away at you. Now, if you look over at the thumbnail I have for this particular episode, um, there's different ways for things to reach out to you now. So you could be separated off from the world and have your own little friend group. But your friend group online could be, regardless if it's Facebook, uh, you know, TikTok, whatever, could just be a bunch of hateful people who are trying their hardest to get you to do something because they're too scared to do something themselves, and or else you're that little nudge or push to get them to go, to get you to go, or and then get them to go and do something bad as well. So it's never too late to not do these things. That's why at the very top of the screen I have the suicide prevention hotline that you can either call or text if you need help. If you feel that you're having bad thoughts, and a lot of times it could be the SSRIs or just certain drugs or medication you may be on making you, I mean, any drug that says may cause suicidal thoughts or whatever, you may just want to become a hippie at that point and just try to do something natural, meditate, find purpose, go lift something heavy, um, go box, start a fight club. If you feel like you need to kick the hell out of each other or something like that, buy a boxing bag. Find some form of discipline. You'll find more rewards in helping people than you ever will upon, you know, being full of hate and trying to take something away from somebody. Don't ever try to take anything away from somebody because you feel hurt or you've had someone who's hurt you. You don't need to go that same path. The thing is that modern entertainment, everything's in gray. And it's not even gray. It's just that we have to understand that, oh, well, we have to understand why this person's evil. No, evil's just evil. We don't have to understand that. Nihilism is, what Friedrich Nietzsche had said before, it pretty much has all become true, where most people become their own God and they no longer believe in God because they have all these different things, but they're empty inside. They don't have anything to look forward to. You know, Even if you believe in the Lord Jesus Christ, you believe in the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, some people still get lost along the way. To say that, that people don't have suicidal thoughts, that everything is always great and hunky dory. There's a story just recently of a woman who did a TikTok about how she's divorcing her husband. He's the greatest guy ever. And that she wants things now. She's going to be a single mom and all these other things. Well, a day later, after that dude was, I guess embarrassed, he killed her and he killed himself, and now there's two children without a mother or a father. And I thought about that story long and hard. Of if he was such a great guy, why couldn't you work things out with him? Why couldn't you have basically, continued your life with him rather than trying to steal, let's say resources, aka his money, his house, whatever that maybe, or he steal your stuff, one way or the other. If you built a life and a family together, I just don't think you should just, oh well, I lose all my assets or half of my ass, and most of the time it's more than half your assets for X, Y, and Z. And, I'm not saying what he did was right. I'm not saying, what she did was right, because what she did was very wrong too, exposing your business online to random strangers. And, again, someone may have found this dude, talked him up. Again, this is the internet, people, where you'll have random strangers, try to come into your life and try to say, "Oh man, they're disrespecting you. They're doing this to you. Oh, homie, things are bad. Oh, you gonna let that disrespect take place?" You don't. You can shut off the world and try to live in your bubble like everybody does. That's what basically what we were intended to do was try to love one another, pray for one another, but you know, do our own little thing within those bubbles. We weren't all supposed to be like, this happy family. The Tower of Babylon was destroyed for a reason. And I will say this again. God separated us for a reason in many different ways on the way we act and the way we represent ourselves, you know. And we, as always, are fools and decide to put ourselves back together again for some reason because humans aren't that intelligent. As much as we like to think that we're just a wet computer that tries every day and to make good calculations. Now, I'm going to bring this up on screen here because I think it really means a lot to this topic. So, bear with me, people. Give me just a second here. And I'm just going to show this just for a second here. Well, actually, longer than that. And that is, I got to bring up the whole little thing here, get the right presentation. The suicide hotline, okay? The lifeline where you can call. They have an official website. All these wonderful and beautiful things that you can check out if you're having issues or problems. And trust me, I have had, certain thoughts at some point in time. Certain things in my life have not gone the right way. I've had struggles these last couple of months where things haven't gone my way. Now, I didn't think of, doing those other things, but, you know, it's always the simple way out. It's never a winner's way out. And if you're suffering from mental health issues, whatever it may be, I mean, if you feel harmful to yourself or harmful to others, I can't say this enough, man. Stop. If you're not a spiritual person, you know, if you are a spiritual person, even if you're not a spiritual person, just say it once or twice. Say, "Dear God, Jesus, please help me. I'm in a lot of trouble. I'm in a lot of pain. I don't know what to do. I hear all these different voices and all these different people from all around the world try and pull at me and steal from me and take my soul and take my innocence from me." And if you're not a spiritual person, reach out to. I mean, even if you are a spiritual person, reach out to the hotline. You know, reach out. You can call a church. You can ask to speak to a preacher. You know, uh, Anybody within the church. People will be willing to listen to you and hear your story and hear what's bothering you and possibly counsel you over the phone or counsel you in person to help you get yourself right. But you have to take those steps. No one can lead you toward it because there's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of things pulling at you. There's a lot of different demons, man. There's sometimes things that'll make you think a certain way, regardless if it's a drug or whatever, and it'll make you paranoid. There's all types of different things. But sit in silence. If you can't sit in silence, there's too many things. And then you know, ask in the name of the Lord or whatever you believe in. If it's not, the Savior, if you let's say you believe in something else, ask for those demons to be cast out. Ask for those voices. And then, the thing is, if you have people online telling you horrible things, telling you to do evil things or whatever, you can block those people. You can get those people out of your life because they don't, the great thing about modern technology is that you can basically cast out most of the evils that bother you with just a click of a button. And, you know, I can't say this enough. There's so many different ways that we can help ourselves. And sometimes we're just too bold, we're too brave. And what I mean by too brave is we're too stubborn in our own way. And we think that we're brave, that we're going to shelter these things on our own. We can't shelter these things on our own. We need a better purpose with each other. We need a better understanding of each other. And sometimes, maybe your mother has wronged you or your father or whoever, and you don't know how to tell them, and maybe you need to share it with an outside person or something like that. Don't be scared to call a hotline and get the help that you may need. And that's the most important thing. I'm going to take this back to one other person here who, also ended himself over a divorce. Um, and it was, or a soon to be divorce. And it was very sad. He was a wonderful person. It brought a lot of joy to a lot of people, and everybody that met him loved him to death. And I actually did a show with the Luke Bros podcast. Shout out to them. Shout out to the Resident Sterile podcast. Shout out to Whatnot, where you can find Resident Sterile doing a Whatnot uh, thing for comics, for games, for movies, DVDs, all types of stuff. He's a great reseller. And we did a little thing on this wonderful gentleman here and Jason David Frank, Power Ranger. Probably the best Power Ranger and the coolest Power Ranger because it was the Green Ranger first, which is Green's my all time favorite, and also he got to be with Amy Jo Johnson. So shout out to Jason David Frank for that. Then he was the White Ranger. I think he was also the Red Ranger, and then he did like a couple of other things. But he was a legit martial artist. He did all these cool things. He was 2 years, older than me. The guy was an awesome guy. Everybody who's met him at Comic Cons, everything else, but no one knows what we go through. Whether you're a man, woman, again, whatever you identify in this wonderful world, you're going through something. And housing sucks. The world currently sucks in a lot of different ways when you have people, large corporations that shouldn't be allowed to buy single houses. They're buying single houses and keeping you from getting a house or keeping you from moving out and basically keeping you poor and broke. Let's just be honest. And vote against that. Go to your local your local people. I don't want to go super into it, but go to your local people, get those people voted out, and get laws made where large corporations cannot buy single houses and then buy neighborhoods and then basically price you out of those neighborhoods and they still make money off of it by renting this where you can't own anything. But that's nor here or there. Let's talk about Jason David Frank. I mean, this guy, was, like I said, getting ready to go through some bad things. And, we all suffer from some form of mental health. I am not a vision of mental health. Every day I fight off demons and I ask for forgiveness for the wrongs that I've done and the evils that I've had in my heart. So, you know, I would tell you if you've never seen the original Power Ranger movie with him and the original crew, check that out. Check out some of his works. But he was suffering through, or he was going through a separation with his wife. Again, it seemed like everything was kind of normal at first, allegedly. And, you know, sometimes a guy doesn't know how to take it. And everybody, I think, if you love somebody else and someone takes away your happiness, and again, a man cares about his wife and his family first. He will kill himself and give everything that he got or everything that he is in order to support his family. And regardless of what color, race, creed, or whatever, like I said, whatever you identify in this beautiful world, you will give everything you got for the person that you love and for the family that you have built together. Now, sometimes the other individual doesn't feel that way, and they basically said, "Oh, well, I've lived this life for so long, and now I'm ready to move on to the next adventure because my friends or the internet has told me that I must do this, or some TV show has told me that life is much better being single than it is to be a husband, a wife, a daughter, a son, whatever that is to whoever's watching this." And my apologies if this has been a little too real for some people, but get the help you need, man. I don't want to see anybody hurt themselves or hurt others because they're fighting something that they don't understand. You cannot face these things on your own. You need help. Everyone needs help. And crying out, just people who can't understand you, whether it be your mom, dad, your friends, or even some retees online, it's not going to help you. And call, you can anonymously call, like, a church, or call a mosque, or even call the Hindus. You can even call Scientology. They may charge you, allegedly, but you can always call and look out for somebody else. You know, you cannot handle these problems on your own. Trust me, throughout history, you'll see everybody that's tried to handle these problems on their own have always been defeated in some form of way. You know, back to Friedrich Nietzsche, You know, when you gaze into the abyss gazes back at you. And when you fight demons, be careful. Yes, you used to become a demon. You can, we are not all guts from Berserk, okay? Where you get to put on Berserk. I'm gonna do an anime reference where you get to put on Berserker armor and you get to go crazy and kill all these evil demons while being somewhat of a demon yourself, but trying to keep your humanity. So, you know, maybe the deeper issue is in all of us that we need to do better as humans, which we do. But there's nothing that says that you can't get the help that you need in today's modern society. You know, you being able to defend yourself is not the problem. Uh, Communication is everything. And again, if you are feeling harmful toward yourself or toward others, please get help. Now, my next episode will be back to video games, regular entertainment, and all these other goofy stuff. But I felt compelled to do something because I've done different ones for suicidal prevention in the past, and I felt compelled to talk about this because I don't want anybody out there to feel that they are alone because you're not alone. Someone will reach out to you, someone will pray for you, someone will talk to you in any form. Like I said, whatever you believe in or identify as, you can find the help that you need. You just have to reach out your hands. You just have to, I hate to say this, you have to surrender in some form or way. And it'll be the greatest thing that ever happened to you. So, with that said, ladies, gentlemen, aliens, whatever you identify in this wonderful, beautiful world, I hope this has been somewhat helpful for you, and it's been helpful for me because sometimes you just need to talk about it because you never know, because you could be crying out in silence. You don't have to be alone. So, peace out.